Lau Kuntlinum Telsqui Elateth. Good morning. My name is Stuart Roberts, and today I'm going to be talking to my audience about the language of Halkumelum, and this video is for my Oral Communications 101. Today I will be talking about how the language came to Nooksack, and the importance of this language is that it identifies who I am and where I come from. First, I will tell you about the language, how it came about my family, and second, I will tell you about how it originated and how it appeared in Nooksack with my family. Third, I will explain on how it identifies us as who we are and how the language is utilized. First, I'm going to tell you about how the language came to my family. When I interviewed my uncle, Lauren Roberts, on May 17th, 2019, my birthday, he shared with me that he sat with our late great-grandmother, which was your great-great-grandmother, who knew the language and who spoke it fluently. She was originally from Canada, here, but she married here in Nooksack to her late husband, Bill Roberts. She knew the language by hearing the language every day from her parents. By hearing the language every day, she installed the language into her internal memory, and then she began to speak the language herself. Through the time of colonization of the First Nation people, she was not spoken the language for a long time, but she has not forgotten the language. In the early 1990s, my uncle Lauren, who was intrigued by the language, sat with her every day, asking her questions on anything and everything that he could think of, and the words and the meaning, and how properly to pronounce them, as he kept a log of every word in a book. Now that I've told you how Halkumelum was introduced to my family, I will now tell you about how the language ended up in Nooksack territory, but was not identified as the Nooksack language. Halkumelum language is the language of the Fraser Valley people that has also migrated as far as Nooksack. A group of elders who compiled the words and the definitions in a book called Meaning Wisdom of the Elders, the Tamal Yasialakwa, which was published in the year of 1980 by Brent Galloway. Before colonization, there was never a border that separated Canada and USA. Our ancestors that spoke the language traveled with the seasons and the food, and it was shared with me that our ancestors traveled along the Chilliwack Lake and that traveled through the hills of Nooksack and created a homestead in Nooksack territories. When colonization occurred, some of our ancestors who spoke Halkumelum stayed on the US side and on the Canadian side, so now that I have family on both sides of the border. Now that I've shared with you how the language of Halkumelum traveled in Nooksack, I will now explain to you on how it identifies various bands in the Fraser Valley. Halkumelum language is a dialect of the Fraser Valley people, and it starts from up north to Chihuahua, which is also known as Hope, to Mathaqui, which is in Mission, BC. Also shown in the book called The Nooksack, the Chilliwack, and the Middle Fraser. In most nations, there is usually just one language that identifies as a tribe. But with the First Nations people, because of the bands that were so close to one another, the language is shared as the common language, which for us it was Halkumelum. So within the change in the dialect, it identified people on who they were and how they spoke it. The language is spoken by fluent speakers who either spoke amongst one another or spoke to families, friends, and gatherings, or for any occasions. To conclude my speech, I informed you about Halkumelum, a language that identifies who we are as Native and First Nation people are we are and where we come from. Not only this language, but for all the tribal languages in Indian country, on how it is spoken and how it identifies them. We talked about how Kumelam and how it came to Nooksack and traveled from the Fraser Valley. Us as Native people, we have our own unique language that is spoken from our ancestors. We all know a few common words like numbers, people, animals, colors, and human relations like mother, father, brother, sister, etc. If we sit and make time to really learn our language, I believe there are many opportunities that will arise and lead us into a successful future with our future generations. Thank you.